you will hear a lot of criticism about bulk posting, or consistently posting, or like people like Gary Vaynerchuk, for example, who runs one of the most successful independent marketing agencies in the world, Vayner Media. He talks about post 14 times a day, especially on social media. He talks about, and people have criticized him about the hustle culture and pushing all of that. And then there's also a lot of criticism, and a lot of people have an issue with, when they hear this, you've got to post all the time on social media and constantly post and constantly be putting out content, right? And then there are a lot of messages that you'll hear nowadays, at least if you're in marketing, or if you're, under that umbrella of marketing, and you're doing any of these activities to get the word out about yours or another person's, business, that you don't have to do endless posting and trying to rack your brain to come up with ideas, this and that, and so they'll sell you another thing. This tool will automatically post to everywhere. Which, by the way, there's one of them that looks promising. I forget what the name of it is right now, but it's a promotion that I saw that talks about being able to post to every social media that you have, that you decide to connect to it with just one publish. And I thought that was pretty cool. I'm not against it. What I am saying, what that just reminded me of, though, is that there are organizations, that are selling different kind of software that'll do that kind of stuff, that are going to tell you that consistently posting, on a regular basis is, it's outdated, or you don't have to do it anymore. Or don't let people pressure you into doing it. And part of that comes from the frustration of how much effort it takes for a busy business owner, entrepreneur, to do that stuff. And a person like myself, who I am a solopreneur, I'm the sole member of my LLC, Uniquilibrium, and I am just a general, and for the most part, lone wolf somehow, but at the same time being some kind of weird socialite. I have innovated a lot of different ways and found tools out of necessity to be able to make the best out of my solo endeavors, to amplify them as much as I possibly can. And part of that did start with just a whole lot of posting. So going back to 2006, my first website went online in March of 2006, and it was for my website that I started called Hypno Athletics. And that was right when I graduated from the Hypnosis Motivation Institute in Tarzana, California. It's America's first nationally accredited college of hypnosis. I'm very proud to be an alumni from there. Alumnus, yeah. And so one of the alumni, right? So that was in February of 2006 when I actually got the diploma in my hand. And then March 2006, I went online with Hypno Athletics. And so it's been 20 years. And what I decided, because I wanted to build up a library of content, I just started posting once a day, every day. Or I think it was, I have to look back at it, but it might have been once every day, or I might have decided that I was going to do it once a week. But I do know that there was a frequency that I determined and that I stuck to. And then I lessened the frequency. So if it was once a day, then I went to once a week. And then from there, I went to once every other week, and then once a month. And then once I felt like I had enough up there, then I just kind of went to posting whenever I was inspired. But I was on this frenzy of doing it. And so that's how I started. And there were a lot of people who were reading my blog post and were impressed in person. Like, wow, you have your own website and you have your own blogs. And, it was something that people were excited about or thought was a big deal. And at one point in time, out of 700 million active websites in the world, mine was being visited by about 80,000 times in unique visitors a day, and it was ranked in the top 100,000 most visited websites in the world, according to a metric service called Alexa at the time. And this was in 2013. I remember when I was really between 2013 and 2014 when those numbers were hitting like that. And at the time, the Alexa was free. Now I think you've got to pay to get those metrics and those analytics and things like that. But again, the whole thing is that people are going to discourage you if you might hear messages like this. may or may not. It may not be relevant to you, but this conversation will be relevant to you because of what I'm addressing here is that I've innovated various different ways to increase my efficiency and amplify my messages by either finding or repurposing various different tools to get the job done. And so, for one thing, I also stick with various different organizations for a while just to see what's going to happen. So my first website went online in 2006. That was with GoDaddy. I register and I host all my stuff with GoDaddy. They've gone through some iterations that I didn't like they got rid of this product called Quick Blogcast, which was partly responsible for me having so many people read my blogs, because I could go up to people and say, hey, I have a blog, I want you to read it, give me your email. And I would put their email in there right on the spot. I would click send, it would send them an email. Sometimes I would be standing there right with them and say, hey, it's going to go to your email box. When you see it, click confirm, and then from now on, you'll just get, every time I publish a blog, it'll go right to you. And they discontinued Quick Blogcast around 2013 or 14 or something like that, and I lost all of those readers and that email list. I was building up an email list of people. It was a free service that I was simultaneously getting readers automatically from people that I would meet in person. So there were going to be more people who were going to stick to it more because they knew me face to face. These were sometimes people that I would see on a regular basis, and so the retention would be very high, and people would actually come up to me and talk to me about, hey, I read your last blog, that was really interesting what you said about such and such a thing. Or like I remember one time a friend, Erin, she said to me, she's like, it's so interesting the way that your mind thinks and how you put these things together. So people were reading it. So Quick Blogcast. So I stick with things for a while. GoDaddy I've been with since 2006. I've also, then in 2014, inspired by Erin, her mom, Shandi Davy, who passed away a few years ago, her mother started having me on her podcast when there was a service called Blog Talk Radio. So I started being a guest on Blog Talk Radio in 2007, and they would let me on there, and I would have conversations for up to 2 hours, which was I think the limit that Blog Talk Radio allowed at the time. So it was a call-in service. So you would call in, and it was basically the crossover. It was that threshold where it was starting to cross over from internet radio to podcasting. And so this is 2007. So I would call in by phone, and everybody was calling in by phone. So it was basically like a phone teleconference, but it was being broadcast to the internet. And so inspired by that, and by some other events, there was an organization that I joined for a little while and built a small team with this company that's no longer around called Empower Network, and it was founded by these guys named Dave Wood and David Sharp, and it was really exciting, and I went to a whole thing in 2014 in Miami, which was great. Got to meet all these people supposedly making all this money but they would do these podcasts and these phone conference calls, and so inspired mainly by Shandi Davy and the Blog Talk Radio conversations, and then a little bit by the Empower Network stuff, I searched around and I found Spreaker. Interestingly enough, Spreaker not only owns iHeartRadio, or might have been iHeart to begin with. I'm not sure which one it is. That they either acquired it or iHeart started Spreaker. I'm not sure which one it is. I haven't really looked into it that much. But they also acquired Blog Talk Radio. So Blog Talk Radio and iHeart are part of the Spreaker family of companies or entities. So I have been just creating content and sticking with it to see what would happen, and seeing the different iterations that happen. And there have been many improvements. Like Spreaker has had so many different improvements that it's mind-blowing how much they improve, and just the stuff that they do and for the users is really great. And so that's the next part that I'm getting into when I was talking about efficiency, and how sometimes you might be discouraged by some people who want to sell you a service that'll get you to become more efficient by amplifying your voice by basically distribution, right? And so I came up with an acronym UDECK, UDECK, which stands for ubiquitously distributed, ubiquitous distribution of efficiently communicated knowledge. Ubiquitously distributed or ubiquitous distribution of efficiently communicated knowledge. Right, UDEC. Ubiquitous distribution of efficiently communicated knowledge. But that's really what it's all about, is distribution. And Spreaker, they automatically have a distribution tool that all you have to do is connect by simply a click of your mouse or your screen, right, whatever, and you'll get distributed out to iHeart, Spotify, Amazon Audible, Apple Podcasts, a directory site called Podchaser, an Indian podcasting hosting site called GeoShavan, Castbox, I think, is another one, and a few others. There's up to 10 of them. I also know it broadcasts automatically to Facebook, to X, and when you connect it also to YouTube. So you get, at a minimum, 10 different places that you're getting distributed from, and in Spreaker is the 11th, at least, that your podcast is getting published on once you connect that distribution service, and it goes out to all of them. So when people talk about that, you're going to drive yourself crazy and posting every day and posting everywhere is so difficult, well, there are services that automatically do that because they know that it's important. And of course, a lot of the bigwigs know this. I previously mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk. I know that his podcast is on Spreaker, and I'm darn sure that they're taking advantage of all those distribution channels that are available through there. So that's just one thing, right? I mean, the fact that you get to get on some of the biggest sites in the world, like, I've realized that as soon as I connected, for example, the Amazon Audible to it, Amazon is a site that gets a lot of search and a lot of traffic and have a lot of extensions on there, which was the genius behind the Empower Network, by the way, which is why they got so much traffic, because everybody was blogging. They called it a viral blogging platform, and they had all these different people that were using empowernetwork.com/uniquilibrium was mine, or / whatever, right? And they were all blogging about their business or whatever they were doing on there. So because of that, Google was saying, wow, there's a lot of fresh new information that's popping up on the site every day. So it was indexing stuff, and we're getting a lot of traffic that way. But Amazon, I noticed that because I check my SEO and my GEO being generative engine optimization, I check it all the time by doing Google searches and also asking voice assistants like Google Gemini and others. I ask them about various different things that I'm doing, and I've noticed that, for example, Monarch City Buzz, which is my B2C platform and it's on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Spreaker, podcast, and the website, and also My City Buzz, which is also on those channels, and which is the B2B platform for my marketing agency. That within a few hours, they're showing up, or at least within 24 hours, they're showing up on search. And so, with that being the case, just typing in those specific things, that's easy, right? Like if you have something that's unique, or a unique set of words that are together, a unique string of words, or right, and you type that in, of course it's going to come up with that coming up in the search engine in the first page, especially if you're the one that's your brand, that's your name, right? Of course that's going to come up. But knowing that it shows up, it doesn't happen for everybody. It doesn't happen if you don't use certain channels, right? You can put up a WordPress blog, one day and call it apples and oranges, and you type that in, and other stuff of apples and oranges is going to come up, not your WordPress blog. But if you publish it to Amazon Audible and to Apple and to iHeart and to Spotify and to all these other places at the same time, as well as going through Spreaker, then yeah, it's going to show up, especially with those sites that get a lot of traffic every day, like Amazon, where people are constantly searching for things on there. But of course, you have to dress it up the right way with the right the content that not only can humans read easily, but it can be indexed and crawled easily the crawling happens first. It crawled and then indexed by the voice search and the artificial intelligence systems that pick this up and stored in their databases. And so, but that's one way of efficiently doing that, is having a service like the podcast, like Spreaker. So if you don't do a podcast, and I do know that there are other services that have marketed to me. I've gotten emails from them that claim to have all this great distribution and do this and this and that, and I just, I haven't gone into them because I'm happy with Spreaker. Although some of the things that are being promoted to me are enticing, they seem interesting, and I may get into them later as long as I can make it efficient. Like if it can be something I can just grab an RSS feed from my previous podcast and just plug it in there and then let them automatically get pushed out to there, then that's just another place to distribute, then I'm all for it. But if I have to start whole new podcasting, I'm not really into it right now. Now, the other thing that I do is I call it an AI stack, and I put together and just using the plain language of what I'm actually doing. Like the name of the system is simply just the steps that I do. And so I've created my own system called Dictation-Transcription-Summarization, and it's really and it's all because of the tools I already have. So I was just using my Galaxy AI. I have an old, it's like 4 years old by now. I have a Galaxy S24 Ultra, and which I'm recording on right now. And then the Galaxy AI creates a transcript, and it's not the best transcript in the world. The transcript has a lot to be desired. But I take that transcript, then before I used to summarize directly in the Galaxy AI, and I might start doing it again. But then what I do is I then feed that transcript to DeepSeek, which is a very highly advanced AI system from China, actually from a city I used to live in called Hangzhou. And usually it'll do really well. It'll give me a nice executive summary about what I've talked about. Sometimes it's really lazy and it just says, here's a cleaned up version of your transcript. Like, why is that helping me? What do I want a cleaned up version of my transcript for? Just give me an executive summary and or an editorial as if it was going to be published to a news site or something like that. That's what I want from you, DeepSeek. And so I'll do it there, and I'll get summaries from DeepSeek, and then I have a prompt that I've created that takes my words, my ideas, and then turns it into an SEO and GEO, right? So a search engine and a generative engine optimized content that'll give me a title, that'll give me the body of the blog or the show notes for the podcast, and then the highest performing tags. And I always check them because I'm finding out sometimes they're not the highest performing tags, but I'm satisfied with the generative engine optimization that it does. And I also recently went through another iteration and improved it, the prompt that I created, because I want everything to be in my own voice, use my own words, not to embellish or make things up. I put in all these constraints. I put in other constraints for not to just start using all this AI slop type of stuff, like contrastive negation. It isn't just this, it's that, like all that kind of stuff. And so, but I use this AI stack, and that's another way of becoming more efficient. And I have some really good examples from people who did this in history before AI was available. Earl Stanley Gardner, Dan Kennedy, who's a marketer. I mentioned another podcast that I did that's going to be on this channel, Hakeem Alexander, and L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology. What they all had in common was they recorded themselves, the spoken word audio, they had it transcribed in one way or another, either by their staff or their organization's members, and then that would be published. Like, for example, Earl Stanley Gardner, supposedly, from what I heard from Seth Godin, he published his books verbatim from his secretaries that transcribed his work and published 40 novels in 20 years, which is a great feat. L. Ron Hubbard has an extensive library of Dianetics and Scientology, literature, regardless of how you feel about it. And so does Dan Kennedy. He's a prolific author, and he's one of the, the most successful marketers on planet Earth. So from that tradition, I'm simply using machine learning. I'm using large language models to be my secretaries, to be my cult members, to be my assistants, who are transcribing my work and organizing it into coherent material based on what I'm saying, right? So that I can then present that to the world and present it in a way that is, especially in the digital and online world, is going to get as much traffic as I possibly can from those presentations. So that's the legacy that I'm building on. Some people who've done some pretty big stuff in the world. I didn't really innovate anything. It's just dictation, transcription, summarization. That's why the terminology for the D.T.S system is so pedestrian. It's just, I'm just labeling exactly what I'm doing. There's no reason to get fancy about it. I'm just speaking into a microphone, having, the voice to text, and then having that organized by another intelligence that's not my own, which would be the same thing as hiring a secretary or an assistant, to do that for me. And that's what you do as a busy executive. So I'm saying all that to, again, demonstrate that there are a lot of different tools that you can streamline and make more efficient your marketing efforts, and you don't have to drive yourself crazy doing it. And and I can go more in depth another time, but I'm just giving a little bit of an overview here. Another thing that has recently come to light, which is amazing, is this gentleman named Kenny Katzgrau, who founded Broad Street. It's an advertising agency, and is a publisher with a company out of Red Bank, New Jersey called Red Bank Green. I think it's a newspaper out there. Well, his company Broad Street released a plugin for WordPress called Partyline. And the excellent thing about Partyline is, one, first of all, with Spreaker and the way that I podcast, I've long been a mobile podcaster. Literally using my mobile device, driving like I am right now, recording, and then with zero editing, just taking the raw recording, running it through my D.T.S system, right? Having it, my Dictation-Transcription-Summarization, having all of the metadata, the titles, the content, the show notes, all that stuff, the tags created for it, as well as an image created for it, and posting that while I'm on the go, while I'm walking around, while I'm doing other stuff. I record it while I'm driving, and then I have all of the content created to supplement it, and then I publish it, and I walk away from it and do something else. So I've been doing that by mobile. What Partyline, that was released by Broad Street, has done is now allowed me, because before, okay, so I'm not getting all twisted here, I get excited. Before, what I was doing was I would create these podcasts and publish them, and then when I had time, I would sit down on my Chromebook or my laptop or at a desktop, and then I would write out a blog and all the supplemental material, and then embed the podcast in there. And so then I would have the blog with the podcast and so on and so forth. Now, I don't have to do that. Partyline, this integration that goes to WordPress, allows me to post blogs directly to whatever site I install the plugin Partyline to be able to, wherever I am on the road, to be able to snap a couple photos, give a few details, and it publishes directly to the site. So now I no longer have to sit at a computer or be indoors or in my office or something to get blog posts out. I can now blog and podcast from my mobile device. This is a very dangerous thing to hand to somebody like me, people. This is the thing that I've been looking for. This is going to help to accelerate. This is what I'm talking about, efficiency. That technology will catch up with your proclivity. If you are in the field, if you are looking, if you are active and you are consistent and persistent, things will seem to pop out of nowhere to support what you're doing, as long as you're looking and you remain open-minded. Because there are a lot of people who I meet who are really upset and angry about artificial intelligence and about the whole thing is taking people's jobs and this and that, and it's not real, it's not authentic. But if you listen to the way that I use it with dictation, transcription, summarization, I'm not just giving it a prompt and saying, hey, write me these articles. I'm saying, you're my editor, basically. I just need you to organize my rambling into something coherent that fits the best practices of what is getting the most attention online, and how traffic is being driven, and how people are being converted with these messages. And so that's what search engine optimization is still now, and how it started, and that's what generative engine optimization is now, is formulating your messages and all of the other metadata like the titles and the tags and descriptions in such a way that it is going to be most easily digested by both humans who are searching for it and they find it, but now they're mostly searching for it through voice assistants and voice search and artificial intelligence. And so that's the generative engine optimization. So it has to be optimized for that as well, because people are just talking to their devices and saying, hey, I want to know where I can find, nature inspired, crystal metal wire wrapped jewelry in, Virginia Beach or the Hampton Roads area, right? And so then what will pop up is lunar orchid jewelry by the founder, Robin Mosher, for example. She's my friend and I've adopted as one of my case studies, one of my clients. But so many things have been made efficient, and some of them are tools that people roll out. Like, for example, Spreaker is an app. I pay $50 a month for the Anchorman level because it serves me very well. And then there's this new innovation that rolled out, which is the integration, the plugin for WordPress called Partyline. And of course, I'm also, using GoDaddy, and they have lots of tools that I use to publish my blogs on. I have the cPanel that's built into there, and I've got all this really great hosting that I pay for, and and I probably pay like maybe it's a little bit less than $2,000 a year for the tools that I have through GoDaddy. I think that in total with GoDaddy and the blogging, I think that's probably what it comes up to about. And so, and then the one that I innovated, they're all free tools. I'm not paying for any of DeepSeek or Galaxy AI or Gemini, except for my mobile service. Anything beyond that, and that's just the way that I'm using it with the Dictation-Transcription-Summarization method, where I'm using 3 different AI models. And Galaxy AI is now being heavily integrated with Google Gemini, so it's really kind of 2 of them. I might start checking into seeing what ChatGPT, how they've come along. But again, a lot of this was really just to say, you might hear a lot of discouragement about having to post a lot and posting in bulk and distributing to various different places. And what I'm saying is that you should be encouraged, because there are a lot of tools that are making that a lot more efficient now. And I just laid them all out. I just did an overview about that. But, it's Spreaker has distribution. You can use the AI tools to streamline your communication, basically the text part of everything, and maybe even creating images for certain things. And now there's this Partyline where you can post to websites instantly that are running on WordPress. I mean, those are the only, requirements. But I'm doing it, and this really, people, mark my words, this is something that is going to help me to explode my reach and really, really provide an amazing service to my clients, because now I can do all of the podcasting and blogging from my mobile device. I am a completely mobile, a mobile multimedia publisher right now. This is something that I've been waiting for a long time. I'm really excited about it. You can check it out. There are podcasts and blogs already on worldreadingclub.com, hakeym.com, which is my hakeym news, mycitybuzz.com and monarchcitybuzz.com at the least, and that I've been using this so far. I published so many things on there with Partyline, testing it out. So there are tools. You don't have to go crazy. I'm really excited. I feel like a giant has stepped off of my shoulders, just like it felt when I first moved to China. I felt like there was a weight on my shoulders, and it was this giant that just stepped off and liberated me. And this is part of that. So I am Hakeem Ali-Bocas Alexander, and you will find this on my namesake podcast, Hakeem Alexander, and HakeemAlexander.com, Marketing Message Management.